I recently finished the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and I decided to write this review sharing what I thought of the work as a whole, giving it a rating at the end. But then I thought, what if I did what the book itself does and compared what we learned to a practical example? That's when I choose Mobile Legends as my example. So today we're going to do exactly that. The version I have was published by Editora Principios. If I'm not mistaken, it was pretty cheap and you can find it at any mall bookstore. I had actually read it before, but long before I started doing reviews on this channel, and just like I did with The Little Prince and the Animal Farm, I decided to reread this. The book covers the lesson and tactics of General Sun Tzu when you first heard about it. It's literally war tactics. He talks about terrain, supplies, army morale, the qualities of a good and a bad leader, how to deal with the enemy's tactics, and how to use the opponent's own techniques against them. After each lesson, he pulls a real example from ancient Chinese warfare, where it played out. So it genuinely reads like a textbook, almost a Chinese tutorial for handling life. I've heard people say this book is overrated and fall into the same category as works like The Subtle Art of No Giving a Fuck or 48 Laws of Power, but I disagree. The Art of War is a classic, and for it to have researched the status it has, it must have survived every kind of criticism both in its own time and today. The 48 Laws and the subtitle Art are recently works by comparison and haven't had the same time to mature, so we can't yet tell whether they're the real deal or just hype. There's also the controversy about the author. Some say Sun Tzu never actually existed and that the book was written by someone who gathered the ideas and philosophy of various Chinese thinkers with similar views on warfare and compiled them all, creating the pen name Sun Tzu as a face represents all those people. A quickly Google research suggests the general consensus among historians is that he did exist. But honestly, it doesn't matter. I bring it up more as a curiosity than a debate, since the point of this video is to talk about the book itself. Now we get to the part I was most excited about. Applying some of the book lessons to Mobile Legends, I am not going to copy and paste from the book. I'll just share the takeaway from each lesson I drew from it. In the battle, Elevate Terrain gives you advantage of gravity and better visibility. Since from high ground you can see enemy troops more clearly. In a personal life contest, we can interpret this pursuing a goal whenever an opportunity arises, whenever we are in position to see it as a whole. For mobile players, it means don't attack without vision. So please, don't invade the enemy jungle without knowing where the jungle is. These and other lessons in the book are pretty obvious, both in a combat contest and a professional life. We often see teams with talent, capable players who end up saboting themselves through ego. In other words, there's no point yelling in chat or pressuring me to gank if I'm busy. That only lowers our chances of winning. Superiority in a combat in the real life isn't about quantity, it's about quality. As the saying goes, a man forewarned is worth two. In other words, it doesn't matter if you and three friends each have 1000 farm. If the enemy Yuzong has been fed by their mage, you're all dying. This one's a classic, it even went viral on Pinterest. In real life, everyone knows or has seen that person who, when completely cornered, transformed and overcame challenges they didn't even know they could face. In other words, everyone's been in a 1 versus 2, realized they were about to die, spent everything they had, and somehow, miraculous, won. Super obvious, but who hasn't felt that sting when you're winning a match and they attack your backline out of nowhere and flip the game? It hurts. Classic. Who hasn't worked with someone who was decent at their job but insubordinate and unbearable to be around, and despite being a couple employee got cut? This one goes out to that friend of yours who's a great guy but has a short fuse. This applies to job applications just as much as it does to that baron, lord or tower you're trying to take. If you get there first, you can position better and execute your plans ahead of the enemy. Beyond of all of this, I will quote him directly from the book, what I consider the main lesson. And I so say, know your enemy and know yourself, and the victory will be in doubt. Know the terrain, know the weather, and your victory will be total. So, that is for today's video. God bless you all, and see you in the next time. Bye.